Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. In today's video, I am going to be discussing 16 features I would like added into Disney Dreamlight Valley. This can span anywhere between the base game to the Rift in Time expansion pass and the Storybook Vale expansion pass. So let's get right into it. The first feature I would love to get in DDV is the ability to exchange or recycle craftable items in exchange for the raw materials it took to craft those items. Whether we get 100% of those raw materials back or even 75%, 50%, 25%, I would love some compensation because it is very easy to sometimes craft the wrong thing or craft the wrong thing in bulk. I've dealt with this myself where I've crafted the wrong path and I've crafted thousands and thousands of them by mistake, and it takes up so many resources that you've spent so long grinding for. I would love to be able to make some of it back, if not all of it, so that we can use that resource to craft something else that we actually need. With regards to the Storybook Vale expansion pass, I would love to be able to convert snippets into story magic. Story magic is very difficult to collect. You can only get it two ways, either by completing the Storybook Vale duties or by completing the Storybook Vale tasks in the Storybook Vale tab. And it's very grindy, it takes a lot of time, and we can get snippets in abundance. They're available in every single biome, in every single section of a Storybook Vale, and after you finish all of the Lore Keeper's puzzles, you don't really have a lot of need for snippets in general unless you want to decorate with them and create a very large snippet army. So I think being able to convert these snippets into story magic would be an amazing feature to add into the game so that we can use the story magic to craft items, because items that are craftable that require story magic require a lot of story magic. So it would just make life easier for those that want to focus more on decorating rather than grinding. Speaking of snippet catching, I think we also need a snippet catching manual, just like we got a manual for time bending when the Rift in Time expansion came out. Now, like I said, it is pretty easy to get snippets, so you don't necessarily need to have a snippet catching companion, or at least a lot of snippet catching companions, because after you finish the Lore Keeper's puzzle, you really have no need to collect them. But for players that want to progress through the storyline faster and they want to have a lot of villagers as snippet catchers, I think it would be a very good idea, and it would just make the game more seamless because you have all of the tools to do what you want and customize the game to your liking. And if someone wants 20 snippet catchers, they should be able to make 20 snippet catchers. In terms of integrating Eternity Isle with the Storybook Vale expansion pass, I think we should be able to find snippets in Eternity Isle. Now, I'm not asking to find the colored snippets, but rather the white snippets that we can actually find in our main valley. In our main valley, we can get white snippets spawning in one biome every single day. For example, on one day I might find the white snippets spawning in the Forest of Valor, whereas the next day I might find them on Dazzle Beach. I think the same thing could be done on Eternity Isle, where one day you might see them spawn in the Glittering Dunes and the other day you might see them in the Wild Tangle. This will just give people the ability to get more white snippets every day and give them a reason to go back to Eternity Isle for questing if they've already completed the main storyline for Eternity Isle and don't always go back to that realm. Speaking of integrating Storybook Vale with Eternity Isle, I think time bending should be available in the Storybook Vale expansion pass because it is currently not available. And I'm going to be honest, I don't go to Eternity Isle all that often, but I tend to spend a lot more of my time now in Storybook Vale just because it's so beautiful, it's so picturesque. I love every single biome. I love every single corner of a Storybook Vale. It's so beautiful to look at and just walk through. And being able to time bend at the same time would be so, so nice, just like how we can time bend in our regular valley and Eternity Isle. So it should be easy enough for us to integrate them together. So hopefully in the future they are able to add this into the game where we can spend more time in Storybook Vale, just time bending to our heart's content. Floating Islands was recently added to the game in the December 4 update, and one of the features I think is lacking from Floating Islands is the ability to reset an island after it's fully decorated. As we found out when the update came out, the floating islands have an unlimited item count. So you can place down thousands and thousands and thousands of items in one single floating island, but if you want to get rid of all the furniture and all the items so that you can redecorate it, you're going to have to go one by one through every single item you place down and delete it manually. In one of the recent updates or past updates, they added a feature where you can reset a room when you're decorating indoors. If they can just replicate this feature for a floating island, I think that would be absolutely incredible, because that way people can focus more time on decorating instead of more time on taking down or tearing down their decorating areas. This kind of goes hand in hand with the next feature, which is to have island presets. If they can't give us the ability to reset an island, I think they should definitely give us the ability to have multiple presets for an island. So if I've, say, created the build I have right now on my screen in the Forest of Valor floating island, and I tear it down so that I can build something else, maybe I can save a preset of this so that I don't lose it, because I've spent so much time and effort and care making this build. I don't just want to lose it so that I can make something else and never get it back, unless I want to put in the same amount of effort to recreate it. The ability to have presets, kind of like how we have presets for clothing, we have 4 slots available to our characters so that we can create specific sets of clothing that we want our characters to partake in. We can do something similar like that with floating islands. I think that would be absolutely incredible. It would be very easy to shift between decorations. So maybe you have something decorated. Maybe you have like a camping site in the Forest of Valor and you have built over it, and instead you've created a beautiful castle area and royal garden. And maybe you have a Dream Snaps coming up that's camping themed. You can just go to a preset that you have already with the camping and you can just place it down so that you can take your Dream Snaps right away, and then you don't have to worry about recreating an area from scratch, but rather building on an area you've already created. Speaking of floating islands, one thing that's really lacking from this is the lack of water. So there's no rivers, there's no lakes, it's a complete blank canvas. And while that can be a great thing, lakes and rivers can bring a lot more to the decorating aspect, because right now we can't place water-based houses. So whether that's Ursula's house or Ariel's house, etc., that can't be placed on floating islands anywhere. I think having not necessarily terraforming abilities where we can create like a custom lake or a custom river, but maybe having assets or like river assets or lake assets or even presets. Maybe you can have a preset where a river goes from one side of the floating island to the other. Maybe you have another preset where the river is a little bit curved, and maybe presets of different lakes in certain placements that you can choose from, kind of like in Animal Crossing when you first open the game and you have to choose between certain maps that have a certain layout. Something like that if you can do in the decoration mode where there's set presets for terraforming of lakes and rivers. I think that would be really, really nice until we hopefully in the future get the ability to actually terraform lakes into the game. I think this would be an amazing alternative for us at this moment. This is one feature that a lot of people have been asking for, and that's the ability to move not just buildings, but also stalls and fruit trees and bushes between the base game, the DLCs, and the floating islands, which have just been added to the game. Currently, with floating islands, you can't place Remy's Restaurant, Tiana's Palace, or Scrooge's Store on the floating islands. They're only limited to your base game, Disney Dreamlight Valley, and of course you have a separate one for Eternity Isle and another one for Storybook Vale. I think, it's very inconvenient for some people to have to go between different biomes if they want to get seeds from every single Goofy stall in all of their biomes. Having them in one place or even on one floating island would make it so convenient, but it could also create really good decorating opportunities. You could create an entire market that has different Goofy stalls, Tiana stall, Mulan stall, Beast's greenhouse, anything like that that can only be placed in a specific biome. I think it should be able to be freely moved and placed anywhere in the valley or anywhere in the DLCs and the floating islands. Hopefully this is a feature they add in the future because it takes away a lot from decorating, and since DDV is heavily focused on decorating and expressing your creativity, I think this is something that they should be adding into the game in the near future. If you'll take a look at the background where my character currently is in the Forest of Valor floating island, you will notice the fir trees that have the different colorway of those in the Ever After biome from the Storybook Vale expansion pass. Now, I'm going to be very honest, these trees are absolutely stunning. The colorways are so gorgeous. There's one that's dark green and another one that's a lighter bright green, and they just work perfectly in the Forest of Valor. But unfortunately, these tree assets are not available for us to decorate. They're just in the background of the Forest of Valor floating island, and also we have a different white color tree in the same aesthetic in the Frosted Heights floating island. And I just want these games to be available for base game players so that they can decorate with it, because when you go and decorate in the floating island, the trees in the foreground that you're decorating with aren't going to match in the background. They're going to stand out so much, they're not going to be seamless, and I think if they're going to be bringing these trees into the background, we should have the ability to have them as a decoration item so that we can decorate with it as much as we want throughout our valley. So for example, if you think about the frozen realm that we have, we got the birch trees that were red and orange, and since that was in a realm, of course we didn't see that tree in our base game, which is alright. It's understandable because we don't have any fall biomes in our base game. But if, say, that biome was in our base game and we didn't have that tree, it would be very unfortunate because we won't be able to decorate with an asset that's already available in the game. They just haven't made it open for players. So of course these trees are now added because it came with the bind in the Storybook Vale, but this is just an example I'm trying to showcase so that you can understand how frustrating it could be for some players that want to decorate in the floating island and make everything seamless, but they can't because the foreground doesn't match with the background. With the recent update that came on December 4th, we got 16 points of rotation, which has been a game changer for decorating in our valleys. There is one slight problem, and that is the footprints for certain items, specifically the house styles that we have, as well as the character and player houses that we have. And that is when you rotate an item, sometimes the footprint increases so that you can't decorate from 3 tiles within that item, which can make it really frustrating to get close and make it very cluttered and full, and it almost feels like there's a border around the building and it just stands out like a sore thumb. Now, this can actually be said for Gaston's house, which is in the background of this shot right here, and the pathing and the items I want to place near Gaston, I can't get within 3 tiles of it because there's a really big footprint around it, and it actually gets worse when his house is rotated. Now, of course, for some items, it actually makes the footprint smaller when it's rotated, which is very cool so that you can clutter a little bit closer. But those are for smaller items. I think they need to focus more on the bigger items because that's what takes up the most space. And if there's lots of empty gaps and spaces around those houses, it can make an entire build seem very dysfunctional or very just not necessarily busy, but more, I don't even have the perfect word for it. It would just look unnatural. When the game first came out, and I think for a year and a half after that, when we equipped a potion, whether it's the pickaxe potion, the digging potion, the fishing rod potion, we had an unlimited cap, so we could consume as many potions as we want, and they would stack on top of each other in our little bar at the bottom right. Unfortunately, in one of the recent updates, they patched this, quote unquote patched this. I don't think this is a patch. This, I think, made it worse for a lot of players. You can only consume up to 50 uses of, say, the pickaxe potion. So you can only mine 50 times before the potion wears out. And then you have to go back in your inventory and consume more potions. And you have to do this very frequently, especially if you're grinding for a certain material. Now, the reason I think they did this in the first place was because fishing became very difficult for certain players, especially during the star path. Sometimes you have to collect 10 of certain fishes in white fishing spots, but you can't do that if your fishing potion is activated, because essentially the job of that is to turn the white spots into gold spots. So you won't get any of the fishes that you would originally get in white spots at all, because they would never appear and instead convert to the gold spots. Now, a way that they could go around this is to have unlimited caps for all of the other potions except for the fishing potion, and that shouldn't be too difficult for them to do. So I hope that it is something that they revert back to, with the exception of the fishing potion. This feature is more of a personal preference, and that is the ability to name critters. We have so many critters now in the game, and even more if you're getting them from the premium shop and have the expansion passes. Being able to name your critters can create such a nice personal experience for you in the game. But not just that, but also multiplayer. If you, say, have an animal equipped with you, so for example, if I have my yellow companion Pegasus that I have here on the screen, and if I go to someone's valley for multiplayer, it could say Selena and their companion blank, the name, is joining your valley. I think it would add such a nice personal touch. It would make it so cute and inviting and personal, and I would just love that. So I hope that in the future they do implement this into the game. The last two features I think are the most requested features, and I'm hoping and praying that they add this into the game as soon as possible, because with the addition of expansion passes, this has become almost tedious rather than fun, and that is cooking. We have so many recipes. We have hundreds and hundreds of recipes in the game now, and if you have any of the expansion passes or both of the expansion passes, you have even more meals to choose from. If they can't give us a search bar, which is the first feature I want a search bar so that we can easily search for meals without having to scroll through everything. For someone that's on a computer, it might be easier for them to scroll through it, but for those that are on console and Nintendo Switch, it's very tedious to scroll through a cooking menu, because it can take minutes and minutes to get to the bottom of the list, especially if you're searching for something that starts with the letter S, W, or anything like that. It'll just take forever. So I do hope that they add a search bar. Now, if they can't add a search bar, which they clearly have been avoiding since people have been recommending it and requesting for so long, I hope they at least, if anything, which is my feature number 16, give us a separate tab so that we can cook meals for villagers that are going to restaurants or that want meals at restaurants. So that includes Remy's restaurant and Tiana's palace. When it comes to Star Path quests and even daily duties, we're often asked to cook a certain amount of meals for people that are frequenting Remy's restaurant or Tiana's palace. And they want very obscure meals that can range anywhere from all the meals that you currently have crafted or have not crafted yet, or in this case, cooked. Being able to have a separate tab where you can just go through all of the meals that only the villagers who need them would be so much more convenient. And we know that they can do this because they have a tab specifically for active quests. So if I'm doing a quest with, say, Jack Skellington and he wants a meal for the specific quest, it'll show up in the quest tab in the cooking section separately so that I don't have to scroll through an obscene amount of meals. If they already have a feature like this implemented, it shouldn't be difficult for them to add another tab for restaurant goers and villagers that are eating at restaurants. So as my 16th and final feature, I am very much hoping that they improve on the cooking in DDV and add a separate tab or even a search bar. And if they can't do any of that, I hope that they can make the speed of scrolling through the cooking menu faster. They've been able to do that for the clothing tabs. They've been able to do that for the furniture tabs. They should be able to do that for the meal tabs pretty easily. So that's what I have for you guys. These are my 16 features that I want in DDV. Hopefully we get them soon. Hopefully we get them over time. Anything at this point I would absolutely love. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree with these features? Do you have any more features in mind? Let me know in the comments. I would love to discuss them with you. But thank you guys so much for sticking around. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can check out my Discord channel as well. It will be linked below. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye, guys.